This episode of History Hunters revisits the obscure life of a Donner Party survivor buried in the Jamestown Cemetery in California's Mother Lode. Jeff and Sarah also check out the home of Leanna Donner App, who survived the winter of 1846 and 1847 while stranded in the Sierras by cannibalizing those who died.
I'm in Jamestown, California at the Jamestown Cemetery, established in 1850, and we're going to find the grave of one of the original Donner Party survivors. We're looking for the grave of Leanna Charity Donner App. This grave was relatively easy to find in this small cemetery. You just really have to love the ornamental ironwork that accompanied most graves. I mean, these are actually bolted on.
Leanna Donner App's life was overshadowed by the traumatic experience of the Donner Party when she was just 12 years of age. These are rare family photographs taken of Mrs. App before she died at age 95 in 1930. Leanna Donner was born December 5, 1834 in Sangamon County, Illinois, the daughter of Springfield farmer George Donner. The Donners decided to journey to California in 1846, partly out of a desire for better climate and the thrill of settling on the West Coast. A country lawyer named Abraham Lincoln considered joining the party but decided against it for family reasons. But perhaps God had bigger things for him to do. Leanna was 12 when the party of wagon trains left on April 15, 1846 from what is now Lincoln Square near the old Illinois state capitol. Getting to either Sacramento or San Francisco required 4 to 6 months of grueling travel. Wagon trains needed to make it through the Sierra Nevadas before the winter storms blanketed deep snows at higher elevations. The party reaches Independence Rock in central Wyoming on July 17th. The rock was named for the fact that immigrants heading west hoped to be here by July 4th, Independence Day, to reach the Sierras before snowfall. At the rock, they hear word of a shortcut that will prove disastrous for the Donners. Pioneers were told of an unproven route, termed the Hastings Cutoff, that could shave 300 to 400 miles off the journey. Instead of saving time, the party was delayed about a month, as roads had to be cleared of boulders, ruts filled, and trees chopped down. Things only worsened when in August they reached the Great Salt Lake Desert, an 80-mile waterless stretch looping around the Ruby Mountains. In the heat of the day, wagon wheels bogged down when the moisture beneath the salt crust turned into a gummy mass. The desert was blistering hot by day, bone-chilling by night. Members began hallucinating, seeing lakes and wagon trains on the horizon. Some of the oxen broke free, crazed with thirst, and bolted into the desert. Without them, wagons had to be abandoned. The promised 2-day journey over 40 miles in the Great Salt Lake Desert ended up being 80 miles, over 6 days of travel. Tempers flared, and James Reed, who suggested taking the route, was most despised. When the Donner Party arrived in the rugged Sierras in late October 1846, a series of heavy snowstorms left the group stranded near a lake that would later be named after the fateful Donner Party. When food supplies were quickly exhausted, the desperate group resorted to eating mice and their own dogs before boiling oxen hide, and then the unthinkable, cannibalizing their own dead. Some of the stronger members went to look for help, but the first rescue party didn't arrive until February. George Donner died of starvation on March 29, 1847. Before the first rescue party arrived to take his young daughters, Leanna and Aletha, to Sacramento, Tamsen Donner ordered the girls to never speak of what they experienced in the mountains. On the way to Sutter's Fort, Leanna reached her breaking point, reportedly sitting down and crying and waiting to die. Her sister encouraged her to push on. When they arrived at the fort 25 days later, Leanna was emaciated and could barely walk. Little did she know that her stepmother had passed and had been eaten by Louis Kesselberg. After the rescue, the Donner orphans were taken in by various families. In 1852, when she turned 18, she married John App, 13 years her senior. The Apps settled in Jamestown, where they lived out the rest of their lives. John App had come out west as part of the Walker River immigrants who in 1853 traveled from Carson City, Nevada to settle in Tuolumne County.
In 1853, they moved to Tuolumne County and they purchased a ranch just down the street, and we just passed by it. 3 years later, he bought a gold mine in that area. Now, this area of the Mother Lode is full of gold. It was a dangerous occupation for a lot of people. Mr. App died in 1898. Mrs. App stayed in the house until 1930. The house is burned this year, unfortunately. She had lived in that house for decades, up until her death. But over here is one of their children, John Quincy Apps, born in 1864 and died in 1957. And the bottom there indicates he was a member of the Native Sons of the Golden West. There's that bear.
This is where John Quincy's wife, Mary Rebecca Ellis App, is buried. And as you can see, she belonged to the Native Daughters of the Golden West.
You're not feeling this one, are you?
It's boring. It's dumb.
It's boring?
Yep.
Sarah and I decided to head into Jamestown for a little sightseeing, as well as lunch, before heading out to the old App homestead.
Historic Jamestown, California. An original gold rush town, Tuolumne County. First, check out the Jamestown jail. We would love to show you the Jamestown jail, but it's closed today. It closed half hour ago while we were traipsing around at other places. Oh well.
Better luck next time.
Here's an old ore car that shows some quartz in there. I doubt if any of that quartz has any gold in it. That kind of tells about the history of it. There's a place about a mile west of here where they found some gold back in 1848. Wait a minute. We have a sign here. The Movies in Jamestown, Railtown 1897 State Historic Park Walk of Fame. All the movies that were shot here. This was shot not far from where we were, up there in the foothills. Dodge City, that was also shot down there. Little House on the Prairie, Michael Landon was here quite a bit. They also shot Lassie here. Petticoat Junction was shot just up the hill. Back to the Future 3. My Little Chickadee with Debbie C. Fields. Wyoming Mail. Some more Back to the Future stuff right here, the same picture. Looks like they had a little train disaster right here.
Talks about the locomotive, old number 3.
Yes, that
still runs and has been in many movies. I don't know which one of these is the number 3 because I haven't looked close enough to find a 3.
Oh, there's a list of all the films.
Apple Dumpling Game, Rawhide, Still in the Sun, Silver City, Bonanza, For Whom the Bell Tolls.
Shadow Riders. I was also here when Tom Selleck and Catherine Ross and Sam Elliott were filming Shadow Riders.
7 Brides for 7 Brothers.
I was in that. I was an extra in that. I should dig that up.
Dig it up. You have it right on the surface, I'm sure.
No, I don't.
Because you showed it to me recently.
Well,
yeah.
It was a pretty bad copy on YouTube.
The Big Valley. I was trying to make
Tail Riders, that was also shot down there at Keystone.
It was time to drive to the house built by John App in 1853, but we knew the ghastly sight of fire damage awaited us.
We have found the App ranch house, and it burned earlier this year. She likes to go through abandoned houses. So this is the front porch of the App house. Mrs. App lived here till her death in 1930. Said that she was a recluse, that she did not like to socialize, and she was a very kind of somber person. It's probably because of what she experienced there on Donner Pass when her parents were caught in that terrible snowstorm. Affected her the rest of her life. For such a historical house, it's too bad that it was destroyed and wrecked like this.
There's an upstairs.
Okay.
The upstairs collapsed.
Yeah, I wouldn't go in there. What?
And you can see the joists that aren't burnt, so you're not really in danger.
Okay. Well, it wasn't.
You can see how everything got burned out. The whole house, actually. The sink is in there. That's where you can see the ceiling fell.
An article suggested that the kitchen was once Leanna's bedroom, the one in which she passed away on May 29, 1930.
Patio. Oh, cool. What was once part of a treehouse, maybe a little? You can't go this way, you have to step through.
The woman who lived here only was able to reach adulthood because of her meal of human flesh that horrible winter. No wonder she remained aloof and out of public view. Leanna Donner App perhaps felt great shame from the notoriety which brought her great scorn and unwanted attention. We can all second-guess the actions of the men those months, but in reality, Leanna Donner was nothing more than a victim of circumstance.